Hi my loves, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Spotless, and in today's video we are going to be making this beautiful long pencil skirt. If this tutorial is something you're interested in watching, please keep on watching and let's get right into the video. To make this skirt, you'll be needing about 2 yards of fabric, your lining piece, and a zipper. The first thing I'll be doing is that I'll be cutting my front piece, and to do this, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two with the right sides facing each other. So as not to waste fabric, I don't just fold my fabric. I folded my fabric using my hip measurements divided by 4 plus 3 inches allowance. You can decide to use 2 inches allowance, but 3 inches works perfectly well for me. So my starting line is going to serve as my waistline, and from my waist to my hip the measurement is 9 inches. So from that starting line I'm going to come down by 9 inches, then I will mark it, and that is going to serve as my hip line.
The actual length of my skirt is 39 inches, but now I'll be adding 2 inches sewing allowance to it, and that's going to give me 41 inches. So now that I'm done marking my 41 inches on my fabric, I'm just going to use a straight ruler to connect my line all the way around. So now the line that I marked for my hip line too, I'll be using my straight ruler to also rule a straight line all the way around. So the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be inputting all my measurements. So for my waist measurement is 6.5 inches, and I'll be adding 3 inches sewing allowance. You can do 2 if that is what you want, but I prefer to work with 3 inches. Then after adding my 3 inches, I had 9.5, and that is exactly what I marked on my fabric. Then I came down to my hip line. My hip measurement is 8.5 inches. I'll be adding 3 inches to that also, which is going to give me 11.5 inches. So the next thing that I'll be doing now is that on the line that I ruled as the finishing line of my skirt, I'll be marking 10.5 inches. Let me explain. You know, my hip measurements plus 3 inches allowance was 11.5 inches. So whatever it is that you have plus your allowance on your hip line, please go ahead and minus 1 inch from it, and that is going to give you that pencil effect. If you don't have a hip cuff, you can go ahead and do this with your free hand, but since I have a hip cuff, what I'm doing right now is that I am using my hip cuff to get that curve shape from my waistline to my hip line. So the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll bring in my straight ruler, I'll place it on the down part of my skirt, and I'll just connect a straight slant line from that place to the line that is coming from my hip. And now that I'm done connecting the two lines together, this is what I have. You can see how beautiful the shape is already looking. The next thing I'll be doing is that I'll bring out my scissors and I'll cut it out on all the lines that I've marked. And now that I'm done cutting, this is how beautiful my front part of the skirt is looking like. So we're almost done. The next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be inputting my dart. So to do this, what I always work with is half of my nipple to nipple measurements, and half of my nipple to nipple measurements is 3.5 inches. I'll bring out my tape rule now, and I'll mark where my 3.5 inches is on my skirt. The skirt will be in a fold. I'll mark it now, and I'm going to notch it. We're almost done with the cutting of the skirt because the front part is the one that has a lot of work, and we are done with it. So now the next thing I did now is that I folded my fabric into two again, but this time with 1.5 inches wider than the front part. The 1.5 inches is going to serve as our zip allowance line and the slit line. So now we are done with the back part, and we're just going to cut it out the same way that the front part is. The only difference that our back part and our front part is having is that the back part is wider than the front part. I'm just going to cut it open because that will be our line for the zipper and for the slit. So now that I'm done cutting my actual fabric, I'll go ahead now and cut my lining piece just the same way that I cut my actual fabric. I'll place it on it and just trace it out. So here are all my skirt pieces looking so beautiful, and the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll go over to the sewing machine now and start attaching my lining piece to my actual fabric. I'll sew the waistline, the two hip line, and I'll leave the down part out of it. Then for the back part too, I'll sew the waistline, the zipper line, and the hip line, and I'll also leave the down part out of it. So now that I'm done adding all my lining piece to my actual fabric, this is what I have.
You can see how neat it is looking. Then I went ahead now to give it a very good press, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be inputting my dart. So what I did now is that I folded my front piece into two and I marked it. Then I'll bring my ruler now. You remember the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5 inches. That is what I'll be using to input my dart line. So I'll be marking that 3.5 inches. Then I'll turn the skirt to the other side. I'll mark 3.5 inches also. So for how long my dart line is going to be, I'll be using the same 3.5 inches for it, for the two parts, and I'll just mark that on my skirt so that when I get to the sewing machine, I'll not be confused. Then I'll repeat the same thing for the other side of the front part also. Now that I'm done with the front piece, I'll bring back my two back pieces, and for the dart, I'll just fold one of it into two. You can see that I'm holding one piece of the two back pieces. I'll fold it into two. I'll just measure my 3.5 inches dart length. I'll do the same thing for the other one also. I'll just fold it into two and just input my 3.5 inches dart length. So when I was done sewing the dart line, this is what I was having, and what I'll be doing now is that I'll be ironing my dart line. Please make sure you iron it flat, and don't let it be facing the same way. Let them be facing opposite directions. I also ironed my dart line for the back piece also. So the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be adding my zipper, and we'll be doing this with the 1.5 inches allowance that we added the other time. So please make sure that whatever it is that you are folding in to sew your zipper is not more than the 1.5 inches that you left, and if it is 2 inches that you left, please make sure that what you are folding it is not more than that 2 inches that you left.
So you can see that my zipper is kind of long. I prefer to use this medium-sized zipper than using that short skirt zipper, because for some reasons I feel like if you want your skirt to be tight around the hip line, your zip should be opening to where your hip is. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. But I feel that other zipper length is just too short for me. So for me to get how high my slit is going to be, I went ahead to turn my skirt to the down part so that you all can see what I am doing. So I'm going to measure 20.5 inches from the down part towards the zipper line. You can make it shorter or longer, depends on what you want, but for me, I feel that 20.5 inches is just so perfect for me because it is going to make it free for me to walk. If you make it like 18 inches, I feel it is going to make it hard for you to stretch your legs somehow. I don't know, maybe you understand what I'm trying to say though. So I'm just going to use my chalk to connect a straight line from where my zipper stopped to where the line that I just marked started from. So now what I'm going to do for this zipper is that I'm going to trim it because it is too long. I'm going to trim off the excess, and I'm just going to fold it inside my skirt like so. Inside that 1.5 inches allowance that we had, I'm going to fold it inside this, and I'm just going to sew it with about 0.5 inches on top. And now that I'm done with the back pieces, this is what it is looking like. You can see how neat it is looking. Please always make sure that you iron out your pieces. So the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be running a stitch across on this part where my slit is starting from, so that when I spread my leg, it's not going to tear. So now that I'm done with the back piece, the next thing I'll be doing now is that I'll be joining my front piece to my back piece. You can see that my front piece and my back piece are now equal. So that is exactly how yours should be too. I'll input my waist, my hip measurements by the sides, and I'll just sew it all the way down. Please make sure that your measurements are correct. I also went ahead to use a chalk to just chalk it all the way down so that I don't get confused when I am sewing. The next thing I'll be doing is that I'll also be folding in the down parts of my skirt, and when I am done, I'll bring it back for you guys to see. So now that I'm done with my skirt, this is how neat the inside is looking like. You can see how neat and beautiful this is. The next thing you want to do now is that you want to iron it out. Please always make sure once again that you iron out your pieces. It is going to make your finishing look very, very neat. So that will be all for this video. If you found this tutorial really helpful, please do wait to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like this video and help us to share it to your friends. Till I see you all again in my next tutorial. Bye.